Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IS Academy. With this session, we'll be continuing with our current affairs compilation series, which we started specifically for the 2025 students, right? Which started on 21st February itself. So we are covering all the subjects with respect to its current affairs. In this session, we'll move ahead with our social issues current affairs for the month of February to April 2024. Right, so let's get started. I hope you have already done the social issues different months, previous months already, as well as that of other subjects as well. It is going to help you considerably. You can expect a lot of questions from this in your UPSC examination. So let's get started. What all we have in store for us? We have the 3-language formula. So there have been protests with respect to this in various states. Right, we'll see what this 3-language formula is, how it was previously and what it is presently is what we will see. We won't go into the analysis of the good and the bad or the ugly or anything like that. We will just stick to facts and concepts important for prelims. Moving ahead, the Jal Jeevan mission, it has been extended. What is it? We'll look at that. Swavalambini Aser. Now, Aser is an annual survey basically of education. So we'll see what that is exactly in detail and who releases that report. Any report or index that comes out, we should know which organization releases that report. Moving ahead, we have the WHO, World Health Organization's FCTC. So we'll see what this is all about. Then education and nutrition, learn to eat well report has been brought out. Then a very interesting, a very comprehensive report in fact has been brought out, that Women and Men in India report. So we'll analyze that report and whatever data it gives, we'll see that as well. Moving ahead, then we have the Palna scheme. Now we'll see what Palna scheme is. Again, with the help of the word only we can understand, but the issue here is, again, this word is that of Hindi, so you have to know that to understand it, else it becomes difficult. But I will tell you what it means, as we always do in our classes. So let's start with the very first topic, that is the 3-language formula. So what is this 3-language formula? Basically, we are talking about the government through its national education policy wanting the students to learn 3 languages, right? 3 languages. Now, in this 3 languages, what will be these 3 languages is the concern, right? So as I said, we won't analyze it, but we'll just see how it was previously and what it is now, right? So when you talk about the National Education Policy 1968, remember 1968. So even though if it is in news right now, you have to go back in history and understand what was there previously. The question can have National Education Policy 1968 because it is in news because of the 3-language formula issue that is going on. So what did the National Education Policy 1968 did? It made Hindi compulsory across the nation with specific language requirements for states. So it made what? It made Hindi necessary. See, there are 3 languages, right? So what it did is, one of the languages, it made it to be Hindi. So remember that, that is very factual. Second, Hindi speaking states were to teach Hindi, English and a modern Indian language. So there are 3 languages that we are talking about. The Hindi speaking states they need to teach Hindi, English and a modern Indian language, preferably a South Indian language. So how can the question be made over here? Necessarily a South Indian language? That can be a question, but it's not necessarily, it's preferably. Preferably means it is up to you what you teach, but it would be preferred if you teach South Indian language. So there is not a compulsion to teach South Indian language over here. Remember that, it is just a preference which is said. Then what? So this was about the Hindi speaking states. What about the non-Hindi speaking states? They were expected to teach local language, Hindi and English, right? Local language, Hindi and English. Now understand the issue over here which is happening. So let's say there is the state of Karnataka, for example. So as per the 1968 National Education Policy, what is happening? let's say the state of Karnataka, and let's say the state of Uttar Pradesh. So what will happen in this case? State of Uttar Pradesh, a Hindi speaking state, will have to teach Hindi. We are not talking about as per National Education Policy 2020. We are talking about as per National Education Policy 1968. So the state of Uttar Pradesh will be required to teach Hindi, English, and any modern Indian language, any modern Indian language. Right. Now see the issue over here. What is the issue over here? The issue is, just a minute. This third language is any modern Indian language which it can take. Right. Preferably it is a South Indian language is what they are saying. But let's say, chalo, for example, let's assume that the South Indian states, the Hindi speaking state choose South Indian languages. Then what will happen? One state might choose Telugu, one state might choose Tamil, one state might choose Kannada, Malayalam, so on and so forth, right? Or they have an option to choose any other language also, right? So this is what the Hindi speaking state will do. Now what the South Indian state, the non-Hindi speaking state, South Indian states are non-Hindi speaking state, we are taking that example. So they have to teach local language. So local language here would be Kannada, of course, right? Then you have English and you have Hindi. You have Hindi. Now understand what is happening over here. That means that all the non-Hindi non-Hindi speaking states will have to teach Hindi. Right? So what you are doing, you are sort of imposing Hindi because the non-Hindi speaking states have the option of any modern Indian language. So that is why this is not all inclusive. This is like forcing Hindi onto the non-Hindi speaking states. Why don't they have an option? They can also have an option. How can they have option? Simply because when you are non-Hindi speaking states, right? Now other states are there which can have other language. So Karnataka can also teach Telugu, for example, Tamil, for example, Malayalam, for example. In the same manner, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh can teach, in addition to Telugu and English, they can teach Kannada, Tamil, etc. Right? But here you have made it Hindi, and over here you have made any modern Indian language, preferably South Indian language, which is not a necessity. So this is, to some extent, is like an imposition, which is absolutely clear. So that is what then the voices will be raised against this, right? But this was, mind you, in 1968. Let's see what has happened presently. In 1920, there is a sort of a relief, you can say, but not completely. That is why still protests are there. The states are not agreeing with it, but it is something better than 1968. So let us see what 1920 has. It retains the three language formula introduced in National Education Policy of 1968. It has retained that, but it has made certain changes. So what is saying, states, regions and students can choose the three languages as long as at least two are native to India. Now this is better. They can choose three languages, at least two should be native to India. That means third can also be a native Indian language, but at least two has to be a native Indian language over here. In addition to the state language, children must learn one other Indian language, not necessarily Hindi. It is not necessarily Hindi. So somewhat better conditions are there over here than the 1968 one. I hope this is clear, right? So still there will be certain issues. There are certain issues are raised. That concern, challenges, way forward, positives, negatives, we'll analyze it for the mains examination. For right now, you remember the 1968 provision and the 2020 provision. 2020 provision, three languages formula retained, but two have to be native Indian languages. And also, in addition to the state language, So here what is happening? Here, Karnataka will be talking about Kannada, of course, the state language that is there. In addition to the state language, children must learn one other Indian language, not necessarily Hindi. So here they can talk about Telugu, they can talk about Tamil, they can talk about Malayalam, they can talk about any other language. It need not necessarily be, it can be Hindi also, but need not necessarily be Hindi in this scenario. I hope that's clear. Let's move ahead with the next topic, that is the Jal Jeevan mission. Now the motive of this Jal Jeevan mission was Har Ghar Jal, wherein you are promising to provide the tap water, drinking tap water. So Jal Jeevan mission, what has happened? It has been extended till 2028, right? So it basically had previous target of 2024, but now it has been extended during the Union Budget 2025. So what is it? Launched in 2019 by restructuring. This is very important. Sometimes the schemes get subsumed or restructured, renamed. You need to remember, launched by restructuring and subsuming National Rural Drinking Water Program. What is the aim? Har Ghar Jal. That is to provide functional household tap connection, to every rural household, right? And minimum service level of 55 liters per capita per day. LPCD means liters per capita per day. Per capita means per person. So this is 55 liters per person per day of prescribed quality as per the Bureau of Indian Standards, that is BIS, on a regular and long-term basis. So UPSC can simply change this to short-term. It will be wrong. On a regular and long-term basis. Now, what is the funding pattern? It is a centrally sponsored scheme. So there are two kinds of schemes that are there. One is centrally sponsored scheme. The other is central sector scheme. So when the scheme is central sector scheme, the entire funding is of the central government. If it is centrally sponsored scheme, then the funding will be combined by the combined funding of center as well as the state. However, the percentage may differ from state to state. For example, the hilly state may be asked to give less percentage share of funds as compared to other states. For union territories, of course, the central government may end up doing the entire thing. So here, the funding is 9:10 for Himalayan and northeastern states. That means 90% funding from central government, 10% from the states, 100% funding by central government to the union territories, and it is 50-50 for the rest of the state. So for the state of Maharashtra, Karnataka, etc. and other states, the central government will provide 50% of the fund. The state government has to provide the rest of the 50% of the fund. Let's move ahead. The next is Swavalambiनी. So the Ministry of Skill Development and Enterprise, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, in collaboration with Niti Aayog. So what are the organizations involved? Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and Niti Aayog, they have launched Swavalambiní. Now what is Swavalambiní? Women Entrepreneurship Program. So it is a women entrepreneurship program launched by Ministry of Skill Development and Niti Aayog. Right? So initially introduced across higher education institutions, it has now been expanded to other regions of the country as well. That is why it is in news. What is the aim of it? Establish a structured and stage-wise entrepreneurship journey for young women. Provide 6 months of mentorship and hand-holding support. Very important. Remember the duration, 6 months. For schemes, the UPSC also asks the facts with respect to duration as well. Next is the ISER 2024 report that has been released. It is Annual Status of Education Report. It is a nationwide report. It is brought out by Pratham. It is brought out by Pratham Foundation. So what it does? Nationwide rural household based survey of children's schooling. So household wise based survey of children's schooling of rural India, that is ASER 2024, brought out by Pratham Foundation. What it does, test the schooling status for children. Age group is very important, 3 to 16 years. The ability to read simple text and do basic arithmetic in the age group of 5 to 16. So this is what it is doing. See if the student can read and write. See if the student can solve the basic arithmetic problem, etc., etc. Now it was conducted annually from 2005 to 14. Subsequently, after 2014, it is being done in an alternate year cycle. So in 2024 it is being done. Next will be done in 2026. All right. So what does it talk about? for the very first time, Acer has annual survey of education. Basically, it has done one specific thing. We'll discuss that. I think it's mentioned. Yes, it's mentioned here, the digital literacy. The digital literacy. So for the very first time, it has included a component of digital literacy which was not present previously among the age group of 14 to 16 years. Second, what is the finding? Reversing the learning gap. So what had happened basically in the pandemic era, there was a learning gap which was quite relevant. Now that learning gap, which became very much more evident during the pandemic or the COVID time, is now reducing. So reversing the learning gap, improvements in basic reading and arithmetic among students of class 3 and 4 in rural areas, reverting back from the post-pandemic damage. So post-pandemic damage was there, now it is reverting, it is becoming better and better. Next, gender gap in smartphone ownership. So you are seeing a gender gap. Boys are owning more smartphones as compared to girls. So 36.2% for boys, and for girls it's just 26.9, that is approximately 27%. When you look at smartphone usage, it is more for social media than for education. So the use of smartphone is more for social media than for education. So that here only 57% of teenagers are using the smartphone for educational purposes, whereas 76% use them for social media. Right? Next is WHO FCTC. FCTC is the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. So World Health Organization's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Now basically 20 years of its first global treaty. WHO has marked the 20 years of its first global treaty, the WHO FCTC. So it has been 20 years for this. That is why it is in news. So let's look in detail about the FCTC. Adopted in 2013, enforced in 2025, and hence 20 years have been completed. What was the purpose of it? Legal framework for tobacco control. See, if you want to control something, you need to have a backing of a law or an act. So this particular thing provides the legal framework for tobacco control, which includes large pictorial health warnings, smoke-free laws, and higher taxes. So higher taxes can deter people from smoking because that will make smoking costlier. That's point number one. Point number two, smoke-free laws. Certain smoke-free zones are there. Smoking is prohibited in certain areas. That also has the backing of the law. And then pictorial health warning. Even in India, when you have these warnings are, of course, that are present. What are these warnings all about? It is the pictorial warning which needs to be there on the cigarette. So there are different percentage that is required over there. Right, so that is the pictorial warning. It is giving the legal backing for that. India's role, India ratified in 2004, served as Southeast Asia's regional coordinator. 5.6 billion people covered by at least one policy, contributing to declining global smoking rates. Now, this is what the fact says, that the global smoking rate is declining. Maybe we see it otherwise when we see that each and every one is smoking, but that is our prima facie or an anecdotal data that we have, right? But actually, as per this, the global smoking rates are declining. So maybe at some point, the places we are, let's say the groups we have, maybe there the smoking might be increasing, but on an average worldwide, if you look at, you need to know that the global smoking rates are, it is this particular convention which is there, it is contributing to the declining global smoking rates. Okay, let's move ahead. Education and nutrition, learn to eat well report. Now, this report is brought out by UNESCO, United Nations body, right? It has been brought out by UNESCO. It released the global report, Education and Nutrition, Learn to Eat Well, in March. Right? Now, sometimes some reports are released in particular summits, so you can remember that as well. It was released during the Nutrition for Growth Summit hosted by France. So this fact also becomes important for you. Now, more on this report, global reach. So around 418 million children globally benefit from school meals across 161 countries. So 418 million people. So how many people are we talking about here? We are talking about close to 42 crore. So in exact, if we have to be 41.8 crore children are being benefited from school meals. For example, India has the midday meal scheme. Midday meal scheme, that is the MDM, midday meal scheme. Similarly, the other countries of the world also have certain schemes, such schemes through which around 41.8 crore people have or students or children have benefited. Now, nutritional gap, if you look at, over 1 in 2 school feeding programs. If 1 in 2 means almost over 1 in 2, that means more than 50% of such programs, they lack sufficient fruit and vegetables, with 1/3 offering sugary drinks. 1/3 offering sugary drinks. It can give you a small spike, temporary purposes, energy increase, but that is not beneficial. It is harmful. It is not taking care of the nutrition. There are no fruits and vegetables in 1 and 2. So that is an issue. Second thing which it talks about is, a third thing, that is obesity rise. Childhood overweight and obesity have doubled in 100 plus countries over the past 2 decades. So over the past 2 decades, it has doubled. Now, if you talk about Indian context, the PM Poshan scheme feeds 118 million children. So 118 million children mean it's a huge number. It is a huge number. You remember 418 all over the world. So India itself contributes close to 1/4, over 1/4. In fact, one of the largest school feeding programs globally. Hidden hunger. Now, hidden hunger, despite the coverage, what hidden hunger means, the deficiency of micronutrients, the absence of nutrients, and the variety in the food leads to hidden hunger. So despite coverage, micronutrient deficiencies remain widespread due to poor dietary diversity. There is no diversity in the food. Moving ahead, Women and Men in India report. Now, the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation released the 2026th edition of Women and Men in India 2024. Now, the question here simply can be about that who releases this report, and you will have the option of Women and Child Ministry, various other ministries. So remember, it is released by MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Right? So this is the report that they have released. Let us look at the report in detail. So here, this graph or this histogram talks about the year-wise gender parity index for all category students. Right? So let us have a look, year-wise gender parity index for all categories of students they are talking about. So taken holistically over here for the year 2021, 21-22, 22-23 and 23-24. So we have the data for basically 4 years. So if you look at it with respect to primary, upper primary, elementary, secondary and higher secondary, right? So here at the primary level, if you talk about gender parity from 1.02 increased to 1.03 to 1.05, but then it has gone down back to 1.03. So there is an increase, but then a decline in the primary level. If you talk about upper primary, there was a decline, then increase, then a decline. If you look at the elementary level, it remained constant, increase and decline. Right? So far, if you talk about the primary, the upper primary and elementary, what is happening at least from this 22-23 to 23-24, there have been a consistent decline in all the 3 stages. In the initial years here, there is an increase, here there is a decrease, here it's constant. But one thing is same, that is from 22-23 to 23-24, there has been a decline in primary, upper primary and elementary. Let's move ahead. In the secondary, let's see what happens. There has been an increase, constant, so no decline in secondary. In higher secondary, a decline, but then an increase and a constant over here. So this jump is quite a lot in higher secondary, is what is very clear to be seen. Moving ahead, when you talk about the percentage of female-headed proprietary establishments, see, this is very important for women empowerment. What is important? Whether the business is headed by the women or not, whether the land is owned by the women or not. However, also it sometimes so happened that the land might be owned by the women, but the decision is made by the male, right? The benefit is extracted by the male, so on and so forth. But at least the initiation is the ownership. So if zero women are owning a particular thing, they will have anyhow no say. If 10 women are owning something, at least 5 of them will have their say in that. So this is still better than not owning it. I hope that's clear. See, why this? Why we have to take it with a pinch of salt? Because many a times when a family starts a business, they start in the name of the women because there are certain benefits that might accrue out of it. So even if a son is starting, a spouse is starting, a father is starting, they may start it in their mother's name, in their spouse's name, in their daughter's name, so on and so forth, to reap the benefits. But not all will be such. So an increase is anyhow a good thing over here. So let us, having said that, let us look at the percentage of female-headed proprietary establishments. So in manufacturing sector, there has been an increase. In fact, from 54.7 to 58.4, there is a considerable increase we are talking about. So 22-21, 22-23 and 23-24. So from 22-23 to 23-24, there has been a considerable increase. If you look at trade, it increased and subsequently increased. If you look at other services, that has also subsequently increased. In fact, the gap from here to here is quite a lot. Then if you look at all of them combined, then also 24, 24.2 and 26.2. So there has been an increase. So you can remember the trend that generally there is an increase in all of them with respect to the female-headed proprietorship. Okay, let's move ahead to the next one, that is the Palana scheme. Now, as I said, it's a Hindi word, so it becomes easy for someone who knows Hindi to understand what this will be all about. Palana means to bring up a child. You know, to bring up a child, to take care of the child, to bring it up. That is what Palana is basically all about, right? So Palana scheme will have something to do with bringing up the child. Yes, so what is it? It is talking about the creche facility. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Means the central government as well as the state government will combine together for the funding of it. It will not be completely by the central government. So what is it about? It scheme that provides quality creche services. What is creche services? See, there is what happens is, let's say a woman who has a newborn baby, who has a small baby, for example, goes to work. Now, where will she keep the baby? Can she keep the baby at home alone? Absolutely not. The partner may also be maybe going to work. Maybe there is no one to take care of. Because of which, what can happen is the female might be required to quit the job in order to take care of the baby, because there's no one else to take care of. Right? So that can be the case. As a result of which, to ensure that this challenge does not come in front, what can be provided is a creche facility for the baby in the office premises itself. Right? So what is this creche facility? A place where the women, or where the parent, it can be women, it can be men also, it can be any of the parent, where the parent can keep their child and go and work. Now, it need not necessarily be in the office premise also. It can be a third party also. It can be it need not necessarily be provided by the office also. Without the office, there can be some private player who can provide that facility. But when a private player provides that facility, that is for profit motive, you will have to pay for it. If the office provides for it, it will be generally free of cost. So this Palana scheme talks about providing such quality creche facilities for the working women. So, for talking about quality creche services for children aged 6 months to 6 years, especially for working mothers in urban as well as rural areas. So, both in urban as well as rural area is what you have to remember. So, the option can have only rural India, only urban India. The statement can have that, but it is for both rural as well as urban India. Now, which is the ministry that has brought this out? Ministry of Women and Child Development has brought this particular scheme. Moving ahead, it is a part of which initiative? It operates under the Samarthya sub-scheme of the government's Mission Shakti umbrella program. So it operates under the Samarthya sub-scheme of the government's Mission Shakti umbrella program. It is linked to that. Remember it. Budget and funding. It is a center-state cost-sharing ratio of 60-40. Why this is a cost-sharing? Because it is centrally sponsored scheme. It is not a central sector scheme. It is not a central sector scheme. It is centrally sponsored scheme. So there will be a mix. So 60-40 ratio, 60 central government, 40 state. Now here it is 90:10 for northeastern and special category state. That means 90% central government, 10% the states. Moving ahead, what is the objective? To support working mothers by providing safe, accessible and affordable daily care services. So this is not going to be a part of the offices. Offices are not able to provide. The women might be working in unorganized sector. So, or even in organized sector, the number of people working is less. So there is no law to make the company provide for creche facilities. So the government under this scheme is going to provide quality, safe, accessible and affordable. So it will be cheap daycare services. Small amount of money you have to pay, but it will be a subsidized amount that you will be paying. It ensures early childhood care, nutrition support and early education for children. Not just that, it helps the women to continue the job and work freely, right? So it promotes continued breastfeeding by situating creches near homes and or workplaces. So when the creche is situated nearby, let's say just a 2 minutes walk, 5 minutes walk. So during the break, during timeouts, the mother can go and breastfeed their child as well. So that is also going to help improve the health, the nutrition and ensure that the women can continuously continue their work freely. So this is all about the current affairs of social issues from February up to April. I hope things are clear. This is going to help you revise it multiple times and be prepared for your exam. Thank you so much.